Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross, and I'm the founder at designcuts.com. And this week, I'm joined by my fellow Brit and hand lettering expert, Ian Barnard, American retro design expert and all-round handsome man, Dustin Lee, and the incredibly talented South African illustrator, Lisa Glantz. In today's episode, we talk about failure as a creative. Is it always a bad thing to fail? And what lessons can we take away from failure? So without further ado, let's get into the show. Hey guys.
Hey, good to see you guys again. Sorry that I just completely didn't show up last week.
Yeah.
I guess that was a failure.
That's a
on my
failure.
part.
How was your 4th of July? Was it good? Was it good fun?
It was great. I feel like an old man, you know, like have kids now. I'm at a barbecue, manning it, making burgers, doing that kind of stuff. I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt. It's over.
Did you have an apron on for the barbecue?
Haven't got to that point yet. Still got a little youth in me left.
And if you get really risque, it can have like a naked body illustrated on it.
Yes.
You know, just so you can be
With
that
a
guy.
six-pack.
Yeah, exactly.
I should actually get something like that from Ian, like a hand-lettered one.
I'll put that on your Christmas list.
Anyways, that was my fail. So sorry about that.
Can I just throw a little teaser out there as well before we jump into the meat of this conversation? So Dustin, this time next week, you can expect a little surprise from all of us here at Design Cuts. And a surprise that we're going to be discussing on this show.
Wait.
Intrigued?
Wait.
I know I am.
I can expect a surprise?
Yes.
I'm fired?
It's going to make you laugh like a lot.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
we need to mention it on the show. So
Okay.
look
You know, I
out
got
for it next
anxiety.
week.
You know, I got anxiety, right? So it's a good surprise.
It's a
right?
good-
I don't
it's a
have to
good
do anything
surprise.
coming up.
No, it's a very it's a good surprise. It's kind of dumb, but like yeah, it's good.
It's not like a legal letter, is it?
Yeah, it's a cease and desist.
Or you guys are like introducing Justin, who owns retro surplus.
That's funny.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, I'm totally intrigued. Could you give us a hint?
Mm-mm.
You could?
I'm afraid not, because you get it from any clues I gave out. So anyway, stay tuned, listeners. So today we're talking about failure as creatives. Does anything spring to mind for you guys when I say that? When I say the word failure?
Can I say that it's not creative? That I failed my driving test by driving into the test centre wall. I thought was quite a big failure.
That is probably
Oh.
something they still talk about to this day.
Yeah,
probably.
That is terrible.
I was just thinking, like, because I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned it last time about how failure can leave scars.
Mhm.
Yes.
Like, I'm all
well,
for
in that
doing
case,
things-
physical. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, to the car and to the wall. But you know, it's really good to embrace failure. But there are some points where it leaves a scar through financial, or it leaves a scar through just your memory. But the positive side of those scars is that you have a story to tell. So
Oh yes.
if I
And
just
that's a good
pass
one.
my test with flying colours, no one finds that story interesting. Oh yeah, I was really good and didn't get any marks on my test. Whereas, you know, what did you do? Oh, I drove into the test centre wall. I passed my test all the way until I got back to the car park, and then I crashed into the wall.
What was it like a little bit of a nudge? Because in my head, I'm picturing like a cartoon where it's like a car-shaped hole through the entire wall.
And there's like all these other students waiting to
Yeah.
go out, and there's me just like, and the lights are flashing, and there's like dust falling down.
Exactly.
And then I picture you being like, did I still pass?
Yeah.
No, he said, you really didn't want to do that, did you? And I was like, no.
That is the weirdest thing to say. You should have said, well, actually, it was planned.
That's the kind of thing my dad would say, so I love that.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to the
All right.
creative failures.
Yeah. Enough banter, please, guys. We want it serious from here on out. So creative failures. I don't know. For me, I can think of a bunch, but here's getting philosophical on you all asses.
Hmm?
I think that pretty much I've been failing in some propensity for my whole creative life. I feel like life
think
is
we all
literally,
have.
it's a series of failures that never
Yeah.
ends. It's just that you fail better or you fail with bigger stuff.
Fail in
Or-
style.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
fail in
exactly.
style. Or you have enough safety nets to make sure that when you fail, it's not such a big impact.
Mhm.
Maybe it's that. Yeah.
Right. You get some wins under your belt, and then the failures feel less devastating as they did earlier on in your
Yes.
career.
Mm-hmm.
For me, at least.
Yeah, and I think it also comes with age, that whole perspective thing of this is meant to happen because, as Ian said, like you learn from it. And I don't know, I'm also one of those believers that I think that the universe has like literally got your back. So if you fail at something, you're not meant to be doing that. So, or it's a lesson that you need to learn to get better at something before you tackle it again.
My mind instantly goes to sex with this analogy. I don't know if it's the rest of you guys.
Well, I actually did. Can I tell you about a failure real quick that was really embarrassing and
Yes.
involves sex?
Oh, okay.
And involves,
This is going to
and-
be good.
Well,
Yeah.
and involves creativity.
Okay.
So this
good.
was early on when I first started my email list, right? Probably around maybe 10,000 people on the email list, right? Like enough to be like, oh, pretty good, 10,000 people. So
Mhm.
anyways, we released this product called Vector Fuzz. Brushes for Illustrator, right? Create a fuzz thing. I type up the email. As always, like I always just miss stuff. No matter what I do, I can spend all day on something and I miss stuff. I'm not detail oriented. I don't know if I have ADHD. I don't know what the problem is. Anyways, send the email out, 10,000 people. Turns out, like twice in the email, instead of writing Vector Fuzz, I replaced the Z's with X's because they're right next to each other on the keyboard.
Oh no.
I got so many responses.
What, being like vector fucks? What the
Yes.
vector fucks?
Yeah, it sounded like it was some sort of weird cyber dirty.
Porn.
I probably sold more. People were like, hell yeah.
I thought it was over. over, man.
Vector porn. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, there's
That's
a pack idea. So, Lisa, does anything spring to mind for you in terms of like more creative failures?
Well, I had my fair share, when I first worked for someone, like, your little pleb in a new job. And I mean, I made a lot of mistakes, and some of them cost money to the company, which is terrible. It's like gut wrenching. So that's all part of the deal, and that's why I always think it's a good thing to go and work for a company because they fit the bill. But yeah, and that sounds terrible, doesn't it?
Yeah,
But it's
Design Cuts
true.
employees listening, do not heed that.
But yeah, I mean, if you, I've once, made a mistake signing off on a print job. When I was a freelancer, so the onus was on me, the responsibility was mine, and I just didn't see an error, and I had to fit the print bill. I had to get pay for the reprint. So that's horrific because that's like
Mhm.
money out of your pocket. But going on the theme that we're talking about, I learned such a valuable lesson because you become super, super pedantic about checking your work afterwards. And I think that's a really good skill to have. It's just unfortunate you have to learn it the hard way. But
Yep.
these things can actually work out in your favor. So then you become a much better designer as a result, because that's another skill set that a lot of people, I mean, that is something that you can be proud of, to say that you really are pedantic and you check for errors. Like, I mean, I didn't send out, vector sex, whatever, for example. But yeah, I mean, obviously we're all human and we make mistakes all the time, but those are the kind of things I can think of offhand.
Mhm. That's not a great one. I mean, it's not so creative, but similar to my little brother, he works as a cameraman on the tennis circuit, and this is very early on in his career with his current company. He went in, he filmed for an entire day, and he hadn't like properly turned the camera on, so he had no footage basically. Even though he could see through the viewfinder, he was getting all these shots and just had nothing. And before going to his boss the next day, I was with him that evening, and he was going all over Twitter to get footage that people had posted on Twitter. So he had something he could download and edit together. So he's like, I've got something from the day, but obviously it looked horrendous. And his boss basically just looked at him and went, "We've all done it once, including me. There won't be another time, will there?" And he went, "No."
No.
Yeah.
And there hasn't
Well,
been.
that's a really positive way to handle it too, because, you know, I mean, I feel like someone messes up one time, that it's nice to give them that. What would you call it?
It's like a free pass.
Yeah, like
Get
everyone
out of
deserves to
jail.
make that. And he went to the extra step of like trying to pull something together. He didn't come in
Yes.
empty-handed. So clearly he wasn't like, whatever, I don't care about the business. He was like, man, I
Yeah.
screwed up. I tried my best to fix it, which is the best you can ask for, really.
Mhm. Yeah, he's a very hard worker. So in terms of me, like I've missed client deadlines. Have you guys done that much? I hate to admit it
Oh,
now,
yeah.
but
Yep.
in fact, this is the Honest Designer Show, so I'm going to be real with you guys. Like, it's all well and good for me to talk about some of the more successful bits that I did freelancing. I had a horrendous habit of making excuses, which you guys
Really?
may or may not find hard to believe now.
I
Because now
can't picture that.
I'm like, very hardworking now, but it came from school. So when I was at school, I was much more lazy. I would do like the bare minimum to get good grades. And often this would be avoiding like any homework, just coming up with all kinds of excuses. I remember one time in geography class, there was this big project, and I, rather than actually do it, I spent ages sending myself so much email to that inbox that it filled it. And then I sent a attachment that was empty called like geography project.zip or whatever to that email, so that Hotmail generated a thing saying could not receive geography thing.zip because your inbox is full. And
Oh,
then I went in and showed
my.
that to the teacher and was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry I did it, but I didn't realize there was this email issue. It's Hotmail's fault, not mine." Like, how ludicrous is that?
Oh,
Unbelievable.
So-
That's like almost psychotic. You need to be like
Yeah. So
institutionalized.
well, I just really didn't want to do it, but I could have done the project in the time it took me to fill up my inbox, I'm sure.
Exactly.
And like some of those negative behaviors then went into like my early freelancing. So for a while, I had agencies outsourced to me. So they would do the management of me and the client. They would get a much bigger fee they charge the client, and then they basically pay me much cheaper rates to go and do the actual work.
Yeah.
And I just remember coming up with all of these bullshit excuses about like why I missed the deadline, or it was slightly late, or I was behind. And it was terrible. And it took me like a few years just to wake up and be like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I need to get my act together and work harder. And now we're all about like, over delivering and being on time and treating people right and all that stuff.
Was it a turning point? Like, did something
That's what-
happen?
That's exactly what I was going to say. It always tends to be some dramatic, painful thing, and then like
Yeah.
we tend to like adjust our behavior.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like around the time just before starting Design Cuts, I remember I was living with my dad still. I was out of university, and it might sound obvious, but I had this thunderbolt moment where I was like, oh wait, the entire rest of my life rests on me entirely now. Like, I'm at an age, I'm not going to be living like with my parents forever. They're not going to support me in those ways that they were. So either I like get my act together, or I'm going to be a failure in life. And you would think I figured that out like earlier, but I didn't. I was like practically in my like early to mid 20s by the time I was like,
No
oh
way.
yeah, I was like, oh wait, like it's
I
on
see.
me.
I didn't figure that out till I'm mid-30s.
Well, I was going to say, Tom, there's still people doing that now, and they're in their 50s. So no, I wouldn't be
Okay.
too hard on yourself.
Well, mine was very similar. I remember moving out and then moving back in with my mother, and then this was when I was like trying to be a musician, and I remember just waking up randomly in the middle of the night and thinking, I'm 23 and I live with my mother and I don't have any money in the bank, and what am I doing? Like, there's
Yeah.
people my age that are out there buying houses. What on earth am I doing? And then the really big one was when I moved to California. We were helping my grandmother by watching her because she had Alzheimer's and my grandfather died. But we were also there because we were broke and it didn't cost money to live there. Like it was a mix. It was beneficial to both of us. I love my grandmother. She's like my second mother. It really was to help her, but it also benefited us.
Yeah.
And I just remember finding out that my wife was pregnant and thinking, I live with my grandmother. I started a business with my friend that makes just enough money to cover the cost of the business. I work 8 hours a day on it. I'm such a loser. And I mean, it really just hit me hard. And I was like, well, I'm going to wake up every day and just work on this thing. And I don't know if it's going to do well or not, but at least then I can, like, no one can point a finger at me and say I didn't try. But like, that was a turning point, like a dramatic, I can't live with the person I have told the story of myself being.
Yeah. That's amazing, though. At least you had that moment. I mean, imagine if you didn't.
Thunderbolt moment, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough. I feel like we all do. I mean, I was thinking, like, don't we all, like Lisa, have you had something where you feel like you hit some sort of rock bottom, or Ian, where?
Yeah, mine was more about when I realized I didn't want to work for somebody. I wanted to work for myself, but I kept the fear basically kept me from doing it. And the same thing, this sounds so dramatic, but it's the truth. I'd be driving to work every day for, I don't know, maybe like 3-4 months building up to me eventually leaving, and crying like every morning on the way to work and thinking, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing this? This is so horrible. You don't want to be doing it. You want to be doing your own thing, but you just don't have the balls. Like, what's wrong with you? And yeah, it's basically that whole sense of you just are a loser, you know?
And Lisa, how old were you when that happened?
Well, it was my second job, so gosh, probably early 30s, maybe late 20s, early 30s.
I feel like that's the time. It's right when you feel like you're officially supposed to be a grown-up. Your brain tells you, I need to figure this out, because no more like, I can't be the kid anymore and be like, I'm just a kid trying to figure it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole sense of where you realize, as you said, like, hang on a minute. So this business of like working for somebody and you're relying on their paycheck, which I know so many of us have to. But I just had this sense of, I don't want to have to feel that. I want to try and make it on my own. Mm-hmm. And it's that, as you said, like, Dustin, you kind of realize, what am I doing? I need to look after myself and my family. And that was kind of my way of doing that for me, was I need to try and make it on my own.
What I love is, and hopefully this is valuable to hear from the listener's perspective, but that seems so strange and incongruous now. Like, the listeners are used to seeing, you know, lovely, happy, smiley Lisa Gland, who makes a great living selling bunnies, not actual bunnies, illustrated bunnies, and you know, and sleeps on a bed made out of money. Like, the thought of
I wish.
The thought of you like weeping in despondency and despair and having no direction, that seems so crazy to me.
Yeah, it's a thing of like that whole. It sounds so cliched, but it's that whole, you're going through this journey of life and you're literally trying to find your way, and then eventually when you choose the path that is has you know, believes in yourself more and has a stronger sense of purpose and clarity, I think things fall into place. But if you're just bumbling along and hoping things are going to work, I think that's when you feel distressed.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
There's someone in my community called Fred. Great guy. He just had his 17th birthday. So when I got to know him, he was 16. And I could tell he was voicing like some anxiety around not being further ahead, not like being more successful as a creative.
17.
Yeah, exactly. And so all, like, especially the young listeners out there, like, please, you know, be ambitious, move forward, try and find direction, be aspirational. That's all inherently good stuff. But don't beat yourself up if you haven't got it all figured out. Like, please, like, certainly none of us did. I'm still figuring stuff out.
They've got all the time in the world. Like, I'm, 40, and I wish I'd ploughed more time when I was younger. Like, I was just wasting my time sort of going to... I remember sitting in a club at like 2:00 in the morning, just like, oh, well, you should be in bed, really.
I do not picture you at clubs. Are you serious?
Me neither, actually.
I wanted to be a DJ.
Oh, cool.
Like, sort of mixing
awesome.
guests, like, Avicii or someone. I used to do discos, like mobile discos.
For real?
Wow.
What you hosted them?
Me and a mate
That-
used to,
Wow.
the wheels of steel.
Oh my word, that is
Ian,
so
I
cool.
don't- like,
Ian,
like-
you are literally an enigma wrapped in a mystery,
You
my friend.
are. It's bizarre.
There's
So
so
did you
many
have
bits that come
groupies?
out.
and the reason why I went freelance is because I knew I wasn't coping because I had a massive blow up with my editor. And the thing I hate, there's two things I hate. It is I can't deal with people crying. Like
I'm
not
making
that I
mental
hate
notes.
the crying, but like when you're in a situation and someone starts crying, I don't know what to do.
I can actually picture you standing
Good.
with your hands behind your back, whistling.
I genuinely hope I cry next time I see you.
I can't deal with confrontation. So me blowing up with my editor, I was like, well, that's definitely not me. Oh, definitely not me.
And then did they
Who I
cry
am.
to make matters worse?
Yeah.
Your editor cried?
Yeah.
You're supposed to cry. You're the underling.
Yes.
I know. And I was really not coping. I was getting like stress, stomach aches, a bit like Tom got every month. And then like I got to a tipping point and I sort of lost it. It was like very unlike me. So I left my job.
And was that failure useful in the long run? I mean, in the macro sense, yes, because you wouldn't be here without that. But
Well, I
the
knew
moment.
I was going to go fully freelance because it was a part-time job, so I was doing 3 days a week. But when you're trying to do a job part-time, it always ends up being like you're trying to do a full-time job
Yeah,
in 3 days.
it's true.
So I was just not. So it was probably like when you think, the whole situation is in a you've got enough money, you've got enough clients, you've got everything's like wonderful. I was completely opposite. So I had enough clients for 2 days. I'd one child. I had obviously a mortgage, and I left on the day our second child was born. So,
Wow.
so I and my wife was the one who was earning the money. Like she was working for the health service. She's a specialist in speech therapy, and she was the main bread earner. So she was like off work on maternity.
Oh no!
Oh no, she wasn't even off work. So she'd left. Oh, she was on maternity leave because she was that far gone in the pregnancy, and so I went from a job that wasn't paying that well anyway to being freelance and having to get my own work. So
You went into the high-flying world of mobile discos.
yeah. So and I was an electrician as well. So I'd like 2 things I could fall back on: electrical work and mobile discos.
Well,
I mean, they are the classic fallbacks, aren't they? After all,
Literally, my life is something you couldn't really write.
That's the interesting thing, isn't it? So I spend a lot of time getting better, but being anxious, I tend to think about the future, which is what anxiety is, right? And you think about like failure. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen if I don't do this or this doesn't work out well?
Yes.
And then like inevitably, like the imagining how horrible it's going to be is way worse. I mean, rock bottom was living with my grandmother, who I love, helping her. It wasn't that bad. It was actually one of the times I look back on my life and I have fond memories of having that time with her. Yeah, it was embarrassing that I was like 30 years old living with my grandmother because I couldn't afford to pay my bills. Yeah, that was embarrassing. But I guess my point is that I think we'd all agree. I'm curious if you guys would agree. Actual failure is not nearly as bad as you think it will be.
Yes.
So it's worth trying at least, because even if you fail at it and it turns out you suck and you can't do it, like the failure isn't that bad.
No. I think that feeling of not trying and not experimenting or not going for something is worse than actually trying it and failing at it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's regret basically.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
I've
that's
just,
a more powerful emotion. Sorry.
I've just
Yeah.
realized something. So I think you three are definitely more successful than most professionally. I think that's safe to say, right? Both creatively or otherwise. And that's amazing. Good for you. But all three of you, and myself included here, so, okay, all four of us, we're more successful than most and we worked for it. So, good. But we were all less successful than
Than
most.
most.
Oh, yes.
I guess because we took the path less traveled. Because I remember, similar to Dustin, looking at my friends getting on the career ladder, doing all this kind of stuff, and being really jealous because I'm sure I've talked to you guys about this. We used to go out, and I lived with my dad. I had to go digging down the back of the sofa to find like spare coins so that I could chip in with the cab fare or afford like half a pint or whatever. So I'd be like, 20p, like great.
Yeah.
And my friends were out there like earning a steady wage and like getting promoted and that kind of stuff. And it was humiliating.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. The worst feeling in the world is when your friends or your brothers or sisters succeed and you're just doing horrible. I mean, right? Isn't that the worst feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I could not be less pleased for them.
I mean, I am. Like, I remember when my brother got a job, he was pushing carts at Target for, like minimum wage for years. And I was the older brother. I'd always felt like I'd, surpassed him on things.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he had been dabbling in computer programming his whole life. Then one day he comes home and he has a job with a salary of $60,000 coding. And
Wow.
I'm making, I have a felt board up in my office where I'm writing like my goal of $1,400 a month in my rent controlled apartment. I mean, it was a brutal punch to the stomach. I wanted to be happy for him. I mean, I love him, but yeah. But yeah, that's an interesting observation.
So yeah,
being below people almost is an advantage because when you're fairly good, you don't want to take as many risks because you have something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's so healthy to really be in a bottom feeder at some point in your life. That sounds terrible, but
that is the quote of the episode.
Because it teaches you so much, and I think the sooner you can be taught that, the quicker you can propel out of it. Because it's kind of, I mean, I remember when I overextended myself, but I was so determined. I bought a house and I couldn't really afford, and I had a small little measly salary, and because I think in South Africa it's easier to buy a house than in the UK and America, I'm guessing. But I basically had to eat rice for maybe 3 weeks of the month. I'm not kidding. I'm thin now, but I didn't look good.
So much carbs, yeah.
It was like I had no weight.
Lisa,
no
that was my exact university diet. Was rice and vast
bread.
quantities of alcohol. And
is it just America where top ramen is the thing you do when you don't have money?
More so, yeah. It seemed to be rice was like the student, or pasta as well, just carbs.
Baked beans on toast.
Yeah,
yeah.
Even when living in squalor, like other countries do it more healthily than we do. we always find a way to make it unhealthy. Let's dip this in salt and chemicals.
You were just there eating packet sugars.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Like
but don't you think because it sounds like we've all been there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think that point of reference in your life is a good guiding compass a lot of the time in your decisions that you make, because there's humility, like you know what it's like to be at the bottom, but at the same time, because you know success, you have this balance of a point of view. So you're not an arrogant arsehole. Well, you'd like to think you're not.
Yeah, you're not an overnight success like some musicians and stuff where they just blow up and yeah.
Exactly. You know what it takes to get there. But at the same time, you really appreciate your success or whatever it is that you have achieved, because you feel like you've earned it. And I think it doesn't even have to be a money success. It can just be the fact that you've landed your perfect job or whatever. And I just think that doing that journey from the bottom up is, I think it's a good thing.
It's paying your dues.
Don't you guys feel like because you were like self-admittedly, or Tom at least said self-admittedly, like maybe below other people in the industry, as I felt too. You tend to look at possibilities or opportunities that other people otherwise might totally skim over. I mean, I didn't think I was going to sell Photoshop actions. To me, that sounded like the most absurd thing. But when you're not doing well and your options seem limited, you do you choose very different options for yourself.
Good point.
Yeah, like my best friend, love him to bits. He works in the banking industry. I still love him though, and I know you used to, Dustin. And he's got like this running joke with me, where he knows like how well things might be going business wise, and he's like, "Oh, how's work going? Like your little computers and that," and he'll like try and like undermine it. And it's true. Like if someone's there with like a high flying banking career, and it's like, oh, little Photoshop actions, like that's cute. Like that doesn't seem like a viable career, does it?
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't think people understand it, so they can't see how it can. Like, because I say something and they go, and you make money from that.
It's like the white space there, isn't it?
Yeah. And I suppose, they don't see. They only see like Apple selling iPhones to people everywhere, and they say, well, they can't see the other things that are quite niche, that they don't ever see. It's sort of like sounds like it's like an it's like a mafia, bootlegged sort of stuff. But yeah,
Ian Barnard, the godfather of type.
I feel like if you're someone who's like a lawyer or a doctor, some sort of job that requires you work a tremendous amount of hours, and in exchange you get very handsomely paid for it, like they'll be like, oh, that's so or finance, like you're saying, Tom, like that's really cute of you with your computers, like good for you for being creative and like being comfortable with that. And then and then they see like how like that there's actually
how much
money
you're
in it.
earning.
Yeah, like I remember when I talked to my lawyer for the first time, I explained to him what I was doing, and it's like, well, this is what what we're doing in terms of business stuff. You could tell he was taken aback. He was like, I don't understand. There's a market for this to happen. He's like, I don't understand. Like, there's this doesn't seem right. I mean, it's a punch to the gut. You don't realize it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so weird. I mean, who would look at Ian and be like, oh, Ian, I might do extraordinarily well lettering thing. That sounds silly.
Yeah, you're talking to the lawyer. Have you not heard of the Grid Builder, mate? It's kind of a big deal.
It's the best.
And then when you explain it, they're like, wait.
And people buy
that?
Yeah, but that's just lines. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My friend draws bunnies and woodland creatures for a living. She's making a killing at it. She just bought a new house.
I spent 14 years and my wage was over that 14-year period went from 20 grand to 25 grand in 14 years.
Oh, mate, that's less than like inflation.
I know. So, I've never been very good with money, and I thought because I didn't want to work in London, I didn't want to commute, I didn't want that lifestyle, that's all I'd be earning for the rest of my life. And like, the term of the mortgage, like the years I was going to have to pay it off with that sort of wage was like, I'd probably be knocking on the door of hundreds. So, and like we had to get like borrow money off both sets of parents to get our first home, and luckily, my wife was earning more than I was, so it was able to get a house. But yeah, it wasn't until the first few years of freelance, it didn't move. It was just I wasn't pricing right, and I wasn't. I was just getting whatever jobs came along. My builder friend asking for business cards for £5. And so it wasn't.
Be laughing, but it's so.
I know, and it's just like it wasn't until I did my side hustle that I was like, oh, I can actually make more than that.
Was it really £5?
What? People like, can you do design business cards and get them printed? My budget is like £5.
I did a lot of $50 logos on Craigslist, and I did a lot of 99 designs.
Oh, I did a lot. I've got
That's
a
how I
whole
got
folder
started.
full.
Yeah.
I need to show that to people to see
Mhm.
what my stuff.
But again, it's paying your dues, right? You wouldn't have developed your talents without churning out that much work.
Oh, no, for sure. I mean, that was like a core base of, I think, starting my business, because you would learn to make logos fast, and you would
Yeah.
learn to update them and change them quickly, and then watch people copy you and then try to do it. I mean, I'm not saying it was like a healthy environment. Sorry, gigantic garbage truck going by.
It's all good.
I'm not saying it was a healthy environment, but like, I mean, I think they should probably go out of business and disappear forever. I guess they're not going to be a sponsor now, but but I mean, they did definitely teach something, right?
Yeah, and
Yep.
like who said this quote where it's like fail fast and fail forwards? Have you
Wasn't
heard
that
that?
Will Smith?
Really? Surely not the Fresh Prince.
It
Yeah, he does a
sounds
lot.
like a Will Smith.
He does a lot of YouTube stuff where he says stuff like
True.
that.
I don't think it was him, but whoever it was, I hope this episode has been useful for everyone at home, because fundamentally, like, I talk to people all the time, creatives all the time, who are worrying about their current situation, not earning enough, not selling enough units of whatever it is they're selling, not attracting better clients, like essentially failing and feeling a bit like a loser. Everything we've described today. So please know that, like, if any one of the four of us can do it, like, so can you. And I don't mean that in like a trite motivational way. Like, it's just the truth. Like, you have to go through that phase. No
We're
one
just four
no one just
losers.
wakes up and goes, oh, brilliant. Well, yeah, we're still falling.
We're just four losers that made it through the other side.
Yep, I'll go with that.
I feel like, I don't know if you guys resonate with this too. Let me know if you do right now, because I'm curious if this is just me. I feel like success lies like 2 or 3 years past when you want to give up.
Mm-hmm. Bit of perseverance, my friend.
Yeah.
On that bombshell, because I think that's a very wise point to end. We will see you this time next week. Thanks so much for tuning in, and let's all be losers together.
Yeah.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com, or find us over on iTunes and now Spotify by searching for The Honest Designers Show. And remember, we're now on social media too, if you search for Honest Designers. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for other designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.